Right, what's up? Good morning. Welcome back to another Tuesday edition of the deep dive here. Oh, let me fix this real fast. I don't know if the YouTube chat might get cut off just a little bit. Let me do this in case so it's easier for me to notice. All right. Okay. There we go. Yes. All right. Welcome. For anyone who is new, if you don't know, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord, and I stream each week here on the Adafruit channel at this time, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Central Time, working on stuff related to CircuitPython. If you don't know what CircuitPython is, you can learn more about it at the main website here, circuitpython.org. This is basically a way that you can program microcontrollers. Microcontrollers are these tiny computers that when you use them with CircuitPython, the way it typically works is they plug into your computer with a USB cable. They show up like a thumb drive. You can edit the Python code that's on that drive. When you save it, the microcontroller will execute the Python code for you, and the code can interface with whatever other peripherals you hook up to that microcontroller. So this first row, these are Raspberry Pi Picos. They're particularly generalized devices. They don't have a lot of built-in bells and whistles. They mostly just have a bunch of I/O pins that you can connect other stuff to. There are other devices that are more purpose-built, like this Matrix portal has some I/O pins, but not nearly as many. It has a couple of built-in buttons you can use as part of an interface. It has this specialized plug for a LED matrix panel. This one is a macro pad, so it's got Cherry MX slots. It's got a screen, a little knob. So some of these devices are very general, like the Raspberry Pi Picos. Some of them are more purpose-built, like that matrix portal and the macro pad. All of the 653 of them on this page, you can use CircuitPython to program. That is not the only way to program them, but that is the way that I work on here on the stream. CircuitPython is an open source project. Anyone's allowed to use it. Anyone's allowed to modify it. You can fork it, make it do something different, however you need for your own project or your own product or whatever you want. All of the work for CircuitPython, or I should say some of the work for CircuitPython, is sponsored by Adafruit. They pay people to work on it. There are contributions from the community as well. There are unpaid contributions. Even some of the folks who do get paid to work on it contribute on off time as well, and lots of other folks contribute with their own time too. But Adafruit does pay a core team of folks to work on the project from day to day, including myself. If you would like to help support them and CircuitPython, as well as the rest of the open source software that they fund, you can do so by purchasing hardware from their website at adafruit.com. You can get yourself microcontrollers like the ones we saw on the previous page over here. You can also get yourself all sorts of bells and whistles, doodads like the panels and buttons, buzzers, beepers, lights, sensors, displays, anything you could imagine that you want to hook up to your microcontroller in order to make fun and interesting projects with. And happy Pride Month as well to all of those who celebrate. Mini Memento camera. Memento camera. Interesting. They got the Memento camera tucked up in there. It's very rounded on the top. I never saw this one. The little dome there. That's a cool looking thing. There it is. There it is. Face tracking. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I see its camera back up in there. Huh. Missed this project back in the Memento days. This does take us to another point, though, about the Adafruit site. You can click to learn here. You can find all sorts of interesting projects and documentation for all of the hardware that you can get on the main site, as well as for building projects and different things that you can do with that hardware. So check out all that stuff. I will click back to here and try to remember to also mention JP's product pick at the end, but in case I forget, I will say it now. Check that out later today. Times are here, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. there will be a live stream and a discount on a particular product, so you can get something on the cheap. So I am jumping in, working on this web workflow sort of Pytest integration. I don't think I worked on this stream before, but I did over on my own stream on Saturday. So if you want kind of the precursor, you can check that out after the fact or whenever you want. But the quick version is that I worked on this script that allows the ability to run a CircuitPython code file on a device over web workflow instead of USB, and get the results back of whatever output that code file creates. So anything that gets printed will get returned by this script. And the goal is ultimately that this running script will be able to be integrated with this hardware test runner, which is a different script that can execute tests that look like the ones in this other repo, which I should have opened up before but didn't. So let's do that. Oops. Interesting. Maybe it's in the cookie kitchen because it's new. There it is. Okay. So in this repo for the Max 44009, which is a light sensor, there are examples, which has traditionally been included in all the CircuitPython library repos, but there's also this hardware test, which contains some more scripts. These are also sort of examples, but they are not as much meant for human consumption, so to speak, although you can look at them and learn about the API and learn about how to use the library. But they are mostly a test script. It's meant to go through and sort of verify that the sensor and the driver are working as expected, and if they are not, then it will print some errors about what went wrong or what have you. And then this test hardware CircuitPython, this hardware test runner skill and script can then go through and sort of collect and run all of these at once, or individual ones if you want to do that, and get the results back and kind of work as a pass-fail sort of test suite for a driver library as we're building it. So basically what I'm trying to do is just get all of this working with web workflow instead of USB, or in addition to USB, as another option, so that we can have tests in the repos which will be able to be run against physical devices that are not necessarily connected to the PC running the test. They could just be on the same local network, which is it basically just makes it a little bit easier to have sort of like a test farm setup, right? One of each port just kind of plugged in, or all the ports that support web workflow just plugged in somewhere centralized with power, and they don't have to be taking up USB ports on the PC. They don't have to be all trying to get power from the PC. They set in settings.toml file on the device. So yeah, as you can see, which I started doing without talking about, the first thing I'm doing is replace this password logic, which was previously hard-coded. I'm guessing if we don't give it a default, that should make it required. Maybe we should have the default be empty string, which I think might be valid, but I'm not actually certain. I mean, you would have to also set it in settings toggle that way. But I think if you did, it might work, although I'm not positive. So then one thing we need is this base64 stuff. So this script needs to connect two different ways, basically. It sends an HTTP request, which is actually wrapped in this web backend helper class thing. This came from Circup, or WW Shell, which is bundled with Circup. It sends an HTTP request this way, but this is a sort of higher level API that just takes the password there, which is convenient. And the password at that point is the same way that it came in from the user. The other way that it needs to connect, though, is over WebSockets. And in the WebSockets, it needs to... Basically, just this is a lower level connection point, honestly, is what it is. Because inside web backend and here, it's taking this password and making it base64 and doing the correct stuff to get it to look like this, and it's actually even attaching it to the same header, most likely. In fact, it may be worth just finding that code instead of looking up how basic authorization works. I think it's like username : password, but then the username is blank, so I think it's just :password, but I don't remember for sure. Web backend should tell us, though. Password gets done where? Self.password. This part seems a little strange, but I think that might be part of basic authorization. The basic auth, here we go. You can just create it. Okay. But this comes from requests. I wonder if we can... I wonder if we can use... the same way, but just get it as a string, right? So this is really part of requests, and it's technically wanting to be put into a request thing. Okay, so theoretically, I should be able to do this. www run. We need host port and now password. And I need a code file. I'll just use something. That's what I was doing before, I think. Yeah. host is, I don't actually know the host. Not really the browser I want. This one, because this will work, right? Should. So I do have a device connected, should be connected to the network, I think. I will say this doesn't always work for me, right? This thing, sometimes this doesn't work for me. But 234 we can see there. Okay, very good. Port should just use the default, honestly. Password. File name. It's an object to have on it. There will be, well, no, we already know toString is not useful. Nothing really useful, honestly. I was hoping there would just be like get header string or useful. This is all just under stuff, and then the username and the password properties, which doesn't really help. I think that it's just, I think it's username colon password, and then that's base 64 encoded. And we use blank username, so it should just be colon password. Let's return. It's taking from base 64 encode string. Do I have to use a buffer? Do I have to give it an array first? Okay, it does. Well, okay, okay, that's what we want. B64 message bytes. Yeah, I don't. Changing it to bytes first is fine. That's fine. But needing the output buffer preset is a little. I don't know why that's trying to. There, args password. Auth slug. For now, I'm gonna do this because if it's correct, then it should match this one. I do this backwards? Or it's backwards, but it still doesn't work. Because I have done this in the wrong spot. I want just the password. I want the entire... There we go. Yeah, okay. Except it's still bytes, so... Here we go. Okay, perfect. So that can run the code, get the response back. Now the file is actually dynamic. The not the file, but the password, which is what I want. One question maybe is, do we... No, I think we just keep these as separate. So... I think I want to rename these. I think this should be CircuitPython USB runner. And this should be CircuitPython web workflow runner. I need to get rid of that print. I don't know if we... Do we want this? I don't know if we want this. Maybe we combine it with that. Okay. Another question I have, which I think this works like this, I can use environment variables as command line arguments. Is that true? So that would be bash set. Does it use set? Is bash set? I think this is a bash thing. No, it doesn't use anything. It's variable equals. We could do like Python ww password equals value. Right, you can't do $signs because you use $signs to access it. But I think we can do... Oh. Nice. Okay. Other potential gotchas with this. Temp is not going to exist in every environment like that. Sure, this one might actually not. This one actually doesn't print anything additional. We should make it match. It then only print whatever comes from running the code. One commented out. So I think I want to update this a little bit further. I don't want to go. I was thinking just copy, like find replace this, but that's actually not what we want to do. Did it just say web runner? Either just say web runner or the other one should say USB workflow runner. Workflow runner. So this would require not PySerial this time, but instead we need circup. We need WebSocket, which I always mess up. What is the show WebSocket? Is it WebSocket? See, I wish this import was required to be the same thing that you ran to install it with PyPy. I don't think that there should be... I don't think that... Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky problem, I guess, because if you have multiple things, then it's like... I feel like this seems totally sketch to me, because this is completely blank, and it's just called WebSocket, but it says it's been verified, but the homepage just goes back to here. And this says author unknown. But I'm pretty sure it's maybe Python WebSocket. Should have put this in like a... Yeah, this is from 2010. But this one is different. It uses async IO. So this is not the same thing. I really think it's like Python WebSocket or Py WebSocket. Doesn't exist. It's really frustrating. How can you get the name of a Python get name of library, get name of PyPy library from import? Is that a thing I can do? Contributions. Mapping.get. Okay, so we can do WebSocket client. Circa WebSocket client requests installed inside the Python virtual environment. I just feel like these should be quoted. WebRunner.py script available in the skills script directory. Your Python compatible device accessible over the local network. For the USB workflow, for the web workflow, hosts a server with API, defining files, and a WebSocket connection for communicating serial output. Run the USB runner script. Run the web runner script. The code file to device. Execute it. Capture serial output. I don't even know if this should be in here. I'm gonna leave it for now because it's a larger change. I don't know. The main issue I take with it is write the code, but this whole skill is about running code, not writing code. There's a different one, hardware test writer, that's about writing code. This one I think should basically say that you're not writing the code. You should have the code written from somewhere else. But I don't know the right way to word it just now, so run the step 2. Use one of the runner scripts. This actually had like everything case or whatever. Idle case? I don't know if there's a word for it. After saving the code, run that script to copy the code, execute it, and capture the device's output. Or okay. Runner, the script will copy the file to the device, connect to the device is serial port or WebSocket. Default serial port. It will run the code by using those, capture and display all the results, return after that or the duration. It should be true of both scripts. Complete workflow. Here's another place where it's like showing it how to write the file. I don't think we really need this. It'd just be like it should in this skill it should just say something like you have the code from somewhere else, like the user's asking you to run something. So run that, don't write something new. At the end of test scripts, that's good. Although again, it's more of a writing code thing. And it didn't follow its own advice in this. Sensor reading, DHT, dry, humidity, temp. And again, this is all about writing code. More stuff that probably should be updated ultimately to kind of like split this out so that it doesn't really contain anything about writing code. Except the print, actually. That's, I think, the one nugget that it should have, because the print is something that's driven by these two scripts. This is basically a skill file that documents how to use these two scripts, so the print, I think, is within the purview. Device is not mounted. Or that the web workflow device is running. Okay. We should look for any more instances of this, actually. Yeah, okay, so this is the complete workflow. So run the output reader. This should be the other one now. But this one actually needs post. I wish that, I mean, it'd be so hard to do post facto, and I don't want to harp on it too long, but I wish that there was some requirement that the name you installed it under would have to be what you imported as. And then for any packages that want multiple things in them, like circup, for instance, when you install circup, you install it pip install circup, but you also get www shell, which is the command line version of the web backend that this is using to copy files. So there's actually two imports, two commands that you get with one package. I think the way the imports should work is you should have to put the library name first. So it should have to be like circup.ww shell. In the import. I don't know though, that's probably easy for me to say is a good solution, but there's likely reasons. Where did that terminal go that I had? Did I just clear? Didn't I have, yeah, this. I'm just gonna leave that for now. But at some point, I think we should actually also maybe make this use an environment variable and then explain in the skill file somewhere that those are expected to be. So that way there's kind of like a standardized variable that it can expect to find those in. Okay. I think that could almost be ready to try this, except for the problem that is not going to work in my environment. So from my computer, my local PC here, I can ping the CircuitPython device and get a result. But from this Raspberry Pi, which is where the agent that is running inside of that I would want to run these tests, the thing that the skill is written for and the thing that's supposed to run the tests for me, it is not currently allowed to see other things on the local network, which the CircuitPython device is. So I need to undo that. As a temporary solution, I think I can use this. I'm not sudo on that user, so I can't use it from that user, but sudo this and then the IP we want. And then work. 2.168.2.1.234. I think the user should make a difference here. This is a IP tables thing. The other thing is I don't actually care about ping specifically. I don't think that would be blocked on the side aside from this, but binary output, I think it's probably a zip. There we go. Okay. Okay, that's definitely not working. You might have to go and do them all in order? How do I look at my rules? Do IP tables. I think this works like in order though, honestly. And I suspect that I cannot have this drop basically before this accept. I have this accept for the IP I want. Actually, I have this other accept for a different IP, which is no longer the IP I want, but would have presumably been used for the same thing. And then I have this drop. And then I have this accept, and I think it kind of goes top down and does not ever get a chance to get to here. So we would have to be able to, like, delete the rule, I think. Modify if that's a thing, but I think it's might just be delete and make again. Oh, is by specification you can run that with D. Did I use D? Did not use D. Numbers, can I do it by number? IP tables -s. Is that whole thing? Yeah, that whole thing is the rule, the specification, technically. Oh, no, it's not, actually. The A is not. You want to delete the rule that drops in incoming packets, input -m contracts, CC invalid drop, CT state. This actually only goes to here. it's missing this. So we would do this, sudo IP tables D. Don't use paste. Instead, right click. So that delete the rule, I guess. Okay, it's no longer listed. And then I would want to recreate the rule, so I could actually just have that one in my file. Must be before drop. All right, there we go. Now we get a response back. Curl. I think I was on the other user. Perfect. Now what I would like to do is give this a try. Keep a copy of this just in case. We're going to put the updated one in here. But I will delete these two, which are not relevant. Yeah. No, this one actually works a bit different. We're not going to be able to test the full workflow like I was thinking, honestly, because, I mean, I guess we could make a separate one. So the deal is actually CircuitPython runner skill is separate from the hardware test runner, but the deal is this CircuitPython runner file that's here, this is actually basically the same as this USB runner. Yeah. That's all right, though. All right. So we actually need one more layer of kind of updates before this would be ready to do the full test, which would be inside this hardware test runner here. We need to do actually one of two things. We either need to have this rely on this, which I think is probably the right way to do it. Like hardware test runner skill should say that it requires CircuitPython runner skill. And CircuitPython runner skill can tell it how to do either USB or web. And then the hardware test runner skill becomes agnostic. It doesn't worry about which workflow you used. But somehow it will need to be refactored a bit, because right now this is expecting to find CircuitPython runner, which is basically this one, and it's expecting to find it also inside of this skill. and it's a little awkward. Maybe what we should do is, yeah, I don't know exactly how I want to handle it. So, but somehow I don't want to just duplicate these, which is what I did the first time around. Somehow I want it to be that this hardware test runner knows how to use this Circuit Python runner, because they ultimately are doing the same thing. The difference being like Circuit Python runner could be used in situations where it's not a test. You could be like working on a project and just want to push the latest version to a device. It doesn't need to be like running Pytest and getting, comparing the results with pass fail and all that stuff. Hardware test runner very much is intended to be running Pytest, oftentimes acting on multiple tests as well. Hardware tests, it will try to collect all the ones in this folder by default. But yeah, and it just called subprocess run. Really, we'd want to like somehow. I think we'd want to have an argument for the test hardware script that says which workflow to use, and then it needs to somehow select appropriately between those. I don't know exactly. I'll have to look into skill, like agent skill dependencies, like how I'm sure there must be already sort of ideas and standardish type stuff forming around how to set one skill as a dependency of the other. But one thing that's awkward is I want this to be runnable outside of an agent as well and easy to use. So whatever we land on, it should also be very easy to just run this from the command line as a human. So it's gotta like have a switch that's easy to use and not buried inside the skill markdown somehow, right? Like, okay. Well, that's something for me to chew on, but we got the web runner up and running with like actual dynamic stuff. We could test it from this device, I guess. Yeah, because we have, so one thing I could do is we could just go into Max. So I can't do the full-on test suite all the way around. But one thing I could do is run a single one of these using the CircuitPython runner. So it'll be a little bit of an awkward command, but we can do that, and then I'll wrap it up after that. So source Hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. Cool. So in this case, everything passed. I do have the sensor hooked up. I don't know if I said that before, but the sensor is plugged into the device that we're using. And so this particular test is mostly just like a sort of baseline sanity check. Does the device show up on the bus? Does it have a lux value? Is it not, nan? Is it positive? All these things. Read it 5 times. Does it stay mostly the same? And then it tests out various configurations, like the continuation mode, continuous mode, and the manual mode, and integration time. And in this case, all tests pass. So we can at least run it through that, but not the test collector. That'll be sort of the next layer, is getting the test collector to use this new runner. But that is going to do it for now. So thank you, everyone who watched along or catches us in the future. As a reminder, go back to the browser. Later on today, on the same channel here, Adafruit on YouTube and all the streaming places, Twitch and everywhere, you should see JP's product pick of the week. I think maybe he was actually out last week, but the page still mentioned it here, so I still mentioned it during my stream, so I might have misled a little bit last week. Sorry about that. But as far as I know, I think that JP is back this week, so later today I think there should be a pick. And you could get yourself, like I said at the top, a really nice discount on some goodies from the shop. So that is going to do it for now. I am doing deep dives on Friday for the next couple of weeks. Scott's out, so I will be deep diving Friday afternoons at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on Fridays for the next 3 weeks. So starting on the 5th will be the first one, and then the 2 Fridays after that. So you can find me there as well the next couple of weeks. I'll be here on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Central Time. And I think that's it. So long, farewell. Thanks again for watching. I will see you next time.